folks, to episode 2 of Vault Vibes Unlocked and Unscripted. How are you, Julie, today?
I'm good. We just had an amazing interview with Nick Danis, and I'm excited to see the response for that. He's such a wise man, right?
We did. We had an interview. We're going to show that to you a little later in this episode here. We'll roll that out. It was our first official guest on the show.
Yep.
It was a good guest. It was someone that you knew, that you wanted to, that you thought would have good information, good conversation, good someone to talk to us and things like that. So I know that we rolled out the first episode last week. We had pretty good recognition for that. People seemed to tune in. People seemed to like what they saw. I think it was great. It's definitely something that we want to grow further into, and kind of fill, those spots that, maybe we saw some discrepancies or at least some, we want to grow into a role that we want to do here, so that was something that we wanted to do here. We want to continue talking to you about ways to get through some of these challenging times. We talked about the real estate, talk about just things in general, just in the world. It seems like there's a lot of negativity out there, and I think that that's something that both of us wanted to, share is I think both of us have a pretty positive outlook on things in life and in general, and we've, gotten each other through times in the past, and stuff like that. And we've been buddies with that. So that's something that we obviously want to share with folks out there to try to find the positives. And something that we talked to Nick about, that you'll see later, was ways of just kind of finding little bits of positivity and just, kind of breaking things down.
Right. And what he's very good at, and this is what again, the purpose of this is to motivate, to give people kind of the idea that they are more empowered in their worlds and in what they're trying to do than they think they are. And getting Nick Danis on here, he is a master motivator. I mean, he is able to come into a program and change it. And I don't know if you saw that or not, but 3 years of this team, this Iroquois basketball girls team, didn't see one win, and he came in and several wins, and it was motivating. And the way he explained it was he took what he had, he was real with what he had. He knew that there was going to be limitations. He accepted those limitations and moved from that point and took every win or every success as a win. And Absolutely. That's what we're trying to do. That's like a small example of what we're trying to do, whether we're talking about real estate, whether we're talking about what your goals in life are, whether we're talking about family or friends or any type of obstacle that you're running into. Work with what you have that's positive, because everyone has something they can work with. Looking at what you don't have is the negativity bias that we're trying to bust. We're trying to bust that up. You're going to see things that you need to improve. Great. You're going to see things that aren't working perfectly. That's fine. That's who we are as humans. We are always trying to fix things. But when you lean into the negative and you stop working and you stop feeling motivated and you start feeling blah, or like, what direction, motivation, goals do I have in my life? What we're trying to do is say, okay, it's not as bleak as what we've been made to believe. It's not, real estate is not as scary as we thought it was. Navigating rough waters is what we're supposed to do in this planet. Nothing's going to be smooth. Right. So you get a guy like Nick Danis on here, and he's truly a master motivator. If you can Absolutely. Get a bunch of kids that are in their head. I mean, teenage girls are difficult at best. They have a low self-concept unless they've been taught how not to. And Sure. And I'll tell you what, he did that. He did that with adults too. And someone like him, he can go way back, decades of how he's been doing this, and tell us how. He could talk about livability, what types of things and obstacles he got through to give him this wisdom. And he talked a little bit about real estate. He talked a little bit about rates, and how to buy something that he can afford.
Right.
And still, even then, he still had squirrels just kind of meandering through his house.
Right.
Like
you'll have to hear that story later.
Yeah. So
that was one of the things that I kind of, as we talked to him, I was thinking, trying, because we're always trying to show ways for people to kind of, one of my favorite quotes, and something that my mom instilled in me, and it was something, bloom where you're planted, right? Mm. So you kind of obviously work with what you have to work with.
That's right.
and try to grow from there. And
you can't lie to people. You can't be false. You can't say, "Hey, you're the best," when you know that in the realm that you're working with right now, you're not.
Right.
But what he was able to say was, "You're really good at this, and you're really good at this. So let's put you where you shine, and then we'll work on the rest." And that's exactly the message that we're trying to put across.
He talked about when he first bought his first house. His dream house was 2 blocks away, but he bought the one that he knew that he could afford, for his family, and give his family a good life, and be able to do those things that he wanted to be able to be a good father and a good provider for his family.
His best friend got the best house. his best friend got, to add insult to injury, he also had to relinquish his favorite house to his best friend.
Right. And that can be hard. But what I was thinking is a lot of times, where rates have gone up and prices have gone up, we're somewhat, especially in the Erie area here, we're in uncharted territory, right? Like, typically, Erie, rates never, house values never really appreciated. You would go up maybe 2 to 3% every year or two. If you bought a house for $99,000 in 1 year, 3 years later, it might be worth $102.
And I don't get why Erie is so conservative like that. Like, we're the 4th largest city in PA. It's a big city.
Yeah, we're a port town. We have a lot of things going for us.
But
absolutely.
We don't realize the things that are trending usually in our neck of the woods. We don't get the riots, and we don't get the overreactions. We handle things pretty low key, and then for us to actually be feeling this real estate trend is a little strange.
Well, it is, and I think that we've noticed, kind of going off of what he had said too, is I'm seeing a little bit more of that trend, where it did seem like for a while people were buying houses, they wanted to, especially a younger crowd, it's like, I want to buy a house like my mom and dad's, and they weren't looking at, or they wanted to better their mom and dad's. You'd have 28-year-old kid or 30, even a 30-year-old or whatever, and they'd want to buy that house that maybe mom and dad bought when they were 45 or 50, when the kids were a little older, and they were coming out of that situation where they wanted to get right into that lifestyle from the beginning, and we kind of got away from that whole first time home, right? Mm-hmm. First home, where you're gonna need a little more work, right? Mm-hmm. It's not gonna maybe be in your favorite neighborhood initially, and I'm noticing a little more of that, where now obviously it's hard for someone to even find a house in a lot of areas for under $200,000. And a few years ago, $200,000 was like a benchmark.
Oh yeah.
Where you knew you were going to get into a nice quality, and you still can get into a quality home for that value, but it might not be in that neighborhood where you were thinking initially. Yeah. Or you may maybe instead of 2.5 baths, you get 1.5.
Right.
Or maybe instead of 4 bedrooms, you get 3, but you have an area where you can maybe rehab it and get it to be a bedroom. And I'm seeing people be maybe a little more resourceful and find ways to make it work now. And
and too, it's with what is going on too. Like, you see shrinkflation. That's the thing that irritates me the most, because they're trying to sell things for the same amount for smaller.
Right.
It's like they're packaging.
So we're seeing it in houses too, right?
Well, you're seeing that, and you're seeing also inflation on the other end of it. You're seeing both, and so you're thinking to yourself, do I want to buy the paint? Do I want to buy the spare wood? Do I want to buy all the stuff that I need to make this house my own? Or should I just buy something that is more made to go, like ready? And then there goes your patience. Your patience is gone. I want to see something in the 200 range, which isn't the old 100 range. And I want to actually have it be move-in ready, because I don't have the funds or the patience to make it better. So, I mean, I bought my house 35 years ago. for 40.
That's a long time ago.
For $49,000, and
Yeah.
everything needed to be done. The
Right.
wiring, I got like almost electrocuted twice in my house.
Yeah.
So but this is what we're dealing with right now. So
Right.
having people like Nick Danis, and you, Nick, to say, okay, work with what you have and
Right.
be really good at what you have. I wish that I was like, selling, real estate at top notch. Instead, I'm working with what I got. I know what my limitations are. We got to work the best that we can.
Well,
but being comfortable and having peace with that, like I can't imagine being peaceful about my best friend buying the best house in the neighborhood when I had to buy something 2 blocks away.
Right.
But he found peace in that.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's the mindset that we're talking about. Not to concede, but to say, okay, what do we have? Let's make the best of what we have.
Well, realize what you have, right? And if it's basketball, if it's a business, if it's real estate, if it's anything. I mean, sometimes even like the city of Erie. If it's realize what we're good at.
Yeah.
In the city, like we're great. Like this city is amazing in the summer. I mean, we're coming up with the really good summer months here. Erie is unbeatable in the summer.
Pittsburghers come. They're called. One of my Pittsburgh friends calls
the Yinzers.
They're called Mupp Ears. We're going.
Oh, the Mupp Ears. Yeah.
Mupp here for a week, and they love it here. We go down to Pittsburgh because we love it there. I mean, so Erie has so much to offer that its conservative little self is something to be sought after, especially in the summer months. For
Sometimes we're the hardest critics, but if someone makes fun of our own town, we say, no, you don't talk about our town like that.
157 days on average we see sun. That'll tell you something.
It's less than half the year.
Yeah,
right.
And we're talking about how sun is so good for you with your endorphins. You need to go out and feel the sun, and how good it is for vitamin D activation and
right.
and immunity and all of that. And we get 157 average days of sun.
You know what I find
That's
crazy
bad.
about that is I totally agree. There's seasonal affective disorder. Knows lack of sun can affect people. What's crazy though is there are studies that show, Sweden's known as one of the happiest countries in the world. Right?
And they get very little sunlight.
People are very happy in Sweden, and they literally go through winter where they might get like 5 hours of sunlight even a day, if that.
But
they're some of the happiest people.
How many chemicals are they exposed to, or does their FDA? Do they even have an FDA?
Right.
Does their FDA let them eat the chemicals that last for 7 years?
But they find ways to it's cold and and they find ways it's cold, and they find ways to bloom like bloom where you're planted.
Right.
They find ways to enjoy the snow. They have festivals. They do the things that they do. And in the summer it's just light all day, which I think sounds cool, but until you're trying to go to sleep at night and it's still light out, I think that would be hard.
Right. The worst. What I don't like is our summers when I can't really enjoy the night sky and a nice fire until about 10 o'clock when I'm about to go to sleep. So. Like, I almost don't like too much sunlight. I like it to be predictable. I like the 8 o'clock, it's getting dark. Okay, good. Now I can go enjoy the nighttime. I can go outside and enjoy a fire, the nighttime stars, and all of that. But I'm already exhausted by that time. So
Absolutely. Well, let's put a pin on that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with you shortly.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. All right, welcome back into the vault. We have a guest here today. Julie, who did you bring in here today? We went on the streets. I told you to get someone. Who'd you grab for us today?
I brought in from the street.
Literally on the streets.
Literally on the street. Nick Danis, the one, the only, the legend, the myth, the man.
The legend, the list. So are we gonna have just Nicks on the show now, or is that like a thing, or what?
Well, I would. You know what? Honestly, Nick is invited anytime because when he speaks, it's either funny or really full of wisdom, and I want some of that in everything we discuss.
I don't think my wife would agree all the time.
Okay. Well,
she's a saint.
Well, your wife's not on until next week. So we'll check with her and see. So you're a basketball coach. Is that sort of I think that makes you the famous person. At least that's how I know you. I hear the name Nick Danis. I think girls basketball high school coach, right?
Well,
Is that
fame is fleeting all the time. I would rather be known as a teacher,
sure?
because it's what I did for almost 40 years, and but basketball also gave me an opportunity to work extra with kids.
Mm-hmm.
I've coached all facets of basketball, boys, girls. I've coached baseball, softball. I've been lucky enough to be able to coach in so many different areas, and I still hear from a lot of the kids that I coached. So that's afforded me an opportunity to expand my concepts or things that we want to do with kids.
Well, that's great. I mean, coaching is one of those things that you do make a connection. Obviously, teaching too. So both of those things. I mean, you've probably made such a connection with students and kids over the years, and I'm sure you've probably had. Have you had like a kid and then like their children and stuff over the years? You've probably had that happen too. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
How long have you been doing this, Nick? I mean, how many years?
My wife would say probably too long. Probably about as long as I've taught, 38, 40 years.
What keeps you doing it?
I just enjoy it, and as long as you can still relate to the kids. The day I can't relate, the day a kid tells me, Coach, this isn't working, that's when you leave. Mm-hmm. But as long as you can stay fresh and keep the kids interested and keep them motivated to learn, to want to show up, because showing up is half the battle.
There are defining moments in everything we do that keeps us sparked, or sort of keeps us lagging. And I guess there's lots of in between the spark and the lagging. But what are some of the sparks of joy that fuel this desire to help these kids become better, stronger, all of that? What is the thing that would be some of those defining moments, or just even one that keeps you motivated?
Well, I could use your daughter for an example. I mean, she gave up, swimming, which,
You say that with no judgment, and I do appreciate that.
And walked in, and almost from the first day said, look, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
You're the new coach. I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
You do what you can do and help me find something within myself.
Yeah. She basically did do that. That's true.
And over the course of she only had 2 years, unfortunately, because basketball is a sport you really need to start younger to develop a lot of the skills.
Sure.
But she worked so hard at it and had fun doing it that, to me, that was the joy of watching her.
Yeah.
Every day. It's not so much the winning. The program had to be rebuilt and restructured, and that's fine.
Sure.
I've done the championships, and that's all good. Mm-hmm. But sometimes your best years are the years where the little accomplishments lead down the road. Your daughter was a perfect example, and we had a lot of fun with it, and she learned from it.
And I'm gonna disagree with you on something. And the thing when you say little accomplishments, they may not have taken title or whatever they do. But how many years, correct me where I'm not remembering this, but how many years was it for the Iroquois girls basketball team to win before you came on board?
I think it was about 3.
Okay, so they hadn't won a
three years without a game.
Without one game won.
I think it was about.
Oh wow!
And so its first season, to me, that's not little. Okay, that kick started the whole team.
Absolutely.
To feel like they can accomplish something, and that's what I love. That's what I do. Mindset is everything. Perspective is everything. When you think you have a shred of hope, it's coming from people that are going to instill those belief systems. And how do you do that? How do you give these kids hope?
You pray a lot.
Yeah.
No, honestly, you joke, but that's huge.
Right?
That's huge.
You be honest with them.
Yeah.
there were teams when we were playing. I tell girls, this is going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah.
They have this and this and this, and we don't. But here's what we can do. Let's do what we can do right now. If we can do this and this, we've accomplished the first step. If we do this, we've accomplished the second step. You build on that.
Right.
The kids are not stupid. They know, oh my God, I'm going out there to face, this team. There's coach. I don't care if you rah-rah us. That is just ridiculous because there's no way we can beat this team. They know it.
Sure.
They know who they can. I mean, kids are not dumb. They know how good a team is. So you say, okay, what can we do? Don't worry about the score. You let me deal with that. What can we do to get better?
Absolutely.
And then we'll deal with it. Because you're rebuilding something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if we were on the other end, I would explain to them how they can lose to this team because you're supposed to win the game.
So you basically point out the reality of it.
Yes.
And
why
then
lie to them?
Right. And then you work with what you know you can do.
Right.
It seems so simple.
I know, right?
My God, it seems so simple.
It does. But but coordinating that is hard.
Absolutely.
I mean, people don't see, for example, and again, I'll use your daughter. Just because, not because you're sitting here, but she would. Okay.
Should she be here for this?
She probably.
It's okay.
She would sit here and she'd go,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Okay, so someone has to bring the ball up. Someone has to pass the ball. She has to move in such a way where she can receive the ball. After receiving the ball, she has to know some kind of where she can attempt to make a shot to the basket. So all of this has to be coordinated.
Absolutely.
If they don't know anything, it's hard to get the ball from point A to point B to point C and then into point D so point D can do. So all of that has to be worked. If you can do it once or twice, you've already started to.
Now you're making it sound complicated. But here's the thing: like any coach can say, "I know the game. I know the game. I'm going to impart this knowledge." Any coach can say that. It's another coach who could come in and change an entire culture, not just the kids, but the parents, the school administration. Like, you changed a culture.
Well, thank you, but you can't worry about people. I've had more people come over and criticize, and I mean, it was great when my dad was alive because he'd sit in the bleachers and he would yell at me.
He was your biggest critic, I'm sure.
God help somebody behind him.
Absolutely, right.
I heard him one day during a timeout. He's yelling across, "What?" I don't want to swear on it.
It's okay.
We're
I've
allowed to
broken
unscripted. We can say whatever you
I've broken
want.
that seal
What
already.
the hell are you doing over there? Will you get that number? Will you get her to shoot?
Right.
And somebody yelled something to me. He goes, "Shut up, I'll come up there, I'll wrap you right." I said, "Dad, you can't yell at the fans. They're allowed to say what they want. He can't tell you."
I mean, there's a way that you say things. We were talking about this before the show. It's like, you've accused my daughter of not being able to see or hear.
So that was what I was going to say. So you were saying pass to her daughter, right?
She was
and
looking
get the ball.
Yes.
So I hear that she has a nickname on the team.
No, well, it first started out as Sister Grace because she was so sweet. I said, "Do you have a foul today?" "No, Coach." Were you going to pick one up? Are you going to hit? Just foul somebody.
Just do it at least once.
I don't want you to hurt somebody. But somebody.
He gets away with that. Like he can say that stuff because he's already established his culture. That's what I'm talking about.
Grace.
It's not set out of anger or hurtful.
I used to tell her, "You're the sweetest young lady I've ever met. You're the most intelligent person. But would you please foul somebody just one time?"
I have a question for you though. And you're both Nick, Italian Nicks.
Well, real quick,
Nick,
let's hear the nickname. Hold on. Let's hear the story, right? So we were talking earlier, and we say, sometimes that, parents and everyone, in the school districts and everyone cracks down on, what people say and stuff like that. But we were talking about that connection you make and how it's a two-way street, right? You respect each other, right? So it's not all one-sided.
Absolutely.
Where you're just barking orders at them or barking insults, where it can come off as an insult because, you allow them to barb you back, right? I mean, it's,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard stories, about times when they've kind of teased you as well.
This is a
right?
true story. This actually happened. Do we have time to tell it?
Yeah.
This actually happened. I'm teaching a young lady. I was at St. Ben's for 1 year, an interim year. I was off as a head coach. They hired me down at St. Ben's and they were very good. Now, this was St. Ben's head of school.
Yes.
Right? So
All
I
girls.
walk in.
All girls.
Okay.
Yep.
These juniors and seniors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a young lady. I won't put names out there, but there's a young lady who is shooting. And as I'm watching her, I walk in. She takes both hands and does this, 2 hands, and the ball misses. And I says, "Dear, come over here." Okay. So she walks over and says, "Where'd you learn how to shoot like that?" She said, most polite. I mean, like you're it's just so sweet. She said, "Well, Coach, I learned from my family." I said, "Oh." I'm thinking to myself, what kind of family teaches this kid?
You don't want to say anything about her family.
Right.
You don't say anything about her
Good
family.
Lord. I mean,
Right.
okay. Now there's where a Helen Keller comment,
Oh, yeah. This is what I'm saying.
So it's come out, right?
There we go.
Helen
You're
Keller,
trying,
we're
right?
looking for that,
family
right?
blind or whatever. And,
Is your family blind?
Yeah,
It's
like,
how
who would
far
teach-
back does this go?
Okay, true story. But you don't say anything there.
Right.
So true story. So I figured, okay, let's see what these kids can do. I'd never seen most of them. Okay. So before we did, I said, let's break up. I said, come here. So I said, look, let me show you how to shoot properly. She says, all right, thank you very much. I said, all right. So I'm showing her, trying to show her what I thought was proper form. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And boink, boink. She couldn't find the ocean and she fell out of the boat. I said, dear, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Maybe, I said, you seem like such a nice young lady. Maybe I can make you part of the offense by you can get other people open.
Right.
Yeah.
She said, well, Coach, if that's what you want, I'll do that.
How
I said,
sweet.
okay, yes. I said,
That's
oh my
sweet.
God. So
Yeah.
she walks away.
Wow.
Not 20 minutes go by. We're running some drives. I said, all right, let's break them up, see what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Girl comes down the court, catches the ball. I told her, I said, dear, shoot it any way you want. Don't worry about it. We tried.
Mm-hmm.
Just, if you get a shot, that's fine, right? I said, you want to shoot your old way, whatever.
Your family way.
Yeah.
Right, the family.
I said, that's fine. Catches the ball, fakes, boom, boom, swish.
What?
I said, that had to be luck.
See that?
Right.
Comes down a second time, between the legs,
What?
takes the girl, jump stops, over, swish, 3-pointers, right?
What happened?
I said, stop, everybody stop.
Yeah.
Shit's like 4 or 5 of them in a
Yeah.
row.
Oh, jeez.
I said, come here. I said,
Everybody
turn
stop.
away. Now this is where you say, how do you,
Yeah.
I says, turn away. She says, well, what? I says, I have to tell you something. So we both turned, and I said, so if I ever tell you to shoot differently, you tell me, Coach D, bend over, and you kick me in the ass so hard that I remember next Tuesday. And she said, I don't think that'll be necessary. All right.
I don't think it
Now,
was here.
This girl went on to prolific scorer.
Wow.
Wow.
Gets to college and becomes the leading 3-point shooter percentage-wise in the history of NCAA basketball. And every time I see her, I said, I could have fixed that.
That's amazing.
She laughs. She goes, yes, I remember.
Oh my God.
So
Belief system.
you
Right
have to
there.
you say, look, it's what they do to get it done.
Right.
Why would you?
Right.
We laugh about it to this day, and I've seen, and she's been out, like 25 years, whatever. But you have to know as a coach how to give and take.
And what? Okay, so I'm going to say this. I'm going to throw this in here because we're talking to Nick and Nick, and I want to say, if we can just get people to think like this, we don't play basketball in life. We don't. How
Right.
do we get people to believe they can and have that mindset like he's teaching these young ladies? Sports is such an educational thing to do. I mean, just any sport, to know how to be able to come out with a winning mindset. You're a loan officer, Nick. We've talked about this, right? And I know that coaches bought only 2 houses in your lifetime.
Yeah.
You have some funny stories about that. But I mean, how do you get buyers to have a mindset like that? How do I get people who, in general, for when they come in for life coaching, to get that mindset? it's one thing to do this on the court in an environment that they can feel safe with someone who promotes that culture. But how do you get these? You're doing it. These kids are growing up to know that.
Right.
What about the kids who don't take the sports and don't
Well,
have
sports, you listen to some of his stories, and some of the biggest successes he has is when he breaks it down, makes it simpler, finds small accomplishments that you can do, and be realistic, right? And, as I'm hearing him talk about that, I'm thinking, well, we can break everyday life down to that,
yes,
or we can break loan officer or real estate transactions down, short, easy, obtainable goals, where someone feels some success as they move forward, right?
100%.
And they go there. So I think that's why a lot of times sports, is a great way to learn some of those things. That's why you have a lot of former athletes and things being motivational speakers.
Absolutely.
You have them as, people going to talk to businesses and offices and things like that.
That's why we have you here.
Right.
For that reason.
Because we're going to have you be a consultant for our business.
Right, speaking of breaking down, breaking down. I was making spaghetti last night. I took the spaghetti out of the box. Do we break it before we put it in the water? Or do I got
just use a bigger pan.
Both of them. Well, everyone's fleecy. The way they're both reacting. I get disgusted.
You don't. Did you break it?
I did break it.
Julie, come on.
You might as well made Campbell's soup.
Oh, no.
I've always wanted to know. I mean,
don't you know?
I'm Polish. I wanted to know.
Well, that's what happens when you have a Polish person making spaghetti. I'm not going to tell you how to make pierogies.
He said it without saying it, okay? Can you just... He said it without saying it with his face. You actually had to verbalize that. I don't know how to feel right now. I just don't know how to feel. But okay, I'm kidding.
The spaghetti softens when you put it in the boiling water, right? And it fits in the
There's a long business that's going on here. I gotta
you just use a bigger pan.
That's a good point. That's a
Were
fair
you using
point.
one of those little 1 quart?
I'm not gonna say anymore. I feel like no matter what I say, I'm wrong.
But if you feel comfortable splitting them, that's fine.
No.
It works.
Not after this shame.
They sell those where it's already half.
Do it right.
It's like
I'm gonna do it right. From
I know the truth.
It's
not half. It was already a full. It was split in half. No, you can't do that. Well,
and I don't know if this relates, but what you do, your realty and whatever. I think if you're just honest with people and you sit them down and say, look, this is what this house is this is what this house offers.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we have to work with.
Mm-hmm.
The very first house we bought was not the house we actually wanted. The house we actually wanted was 2 blocks up. But in that 2 blocks, it was $8,000 that I didn't have.
Oh, right.
And so the difference between what we bought and maybe 12, something like that, we just didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of getting, one of my best friends bought that house.
Oh,
but
that hurts.
No, it was fine. But I understand. So we were 2 blocks down.
Mm-hmm. But what was it like? I mean, when did you buy that house?
Oh, 85, 86.
What was your interest
rate? So
rate?
interest rates were probably in the teens,
I gotta know.
I don't even remember.
In the teens? Was it a double digit?
No, I don't think it was quite that high.
Mm-hmm. Maybe low double digits, like 11, 12 or something like that. Yeah.
But that was what it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people still bought it, see?
Yeah, they
bought it. Had no choice.
Yeah.
What is the rate? What is the rate today, Nick? Let's be current.
We're right around 7. We can get you maybe a little below 7, but given on the day.
That's not bad.
Obviously, it depends on the borrower,
but spend what you can afford to be able to live.
Yeah.
People sometimes go, but I was raised that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were served a meal, I don't know about your house, but you eat a piece of bread with that.
Even the broken spaghetti?
Well, nobody ever
did that. Come on.
Spaghetti was Sunday. Sunday after lunch.
Oh, it wasn't on Tuesday night.
Oh, God, no. Oh, Lord, nobody ate. Sunday.
I feel
you go to church, you come home, the meatballs and what we call sulga was called, the sauce was all nice, and we were drinking coffee when we were like 5 years old, probably.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean.
So you get the Italian bread, you cut it, and Dad before, because lunch was at 1 and it was like mass was over at 10, you were hungry, and he'd give you a little bowl of this and maybe one meatball, and you took that Italian bread and you done. Oh man,
Yeah.
you know that's what you did. So we learned how to eat meat with bread because that's during the Depression. That's what you did.
Yeah.
Right. See, yep.
So I was kind of trained in that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we, but we didn't buy beyond our means. You talk about buying. We sat down, my wife and I said, all right, what can we actually afford and still want to raise our family? So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And for 30 some years, we lived in it was a small house. It's small, but we loved it. And I spruced it up. We got it all nice. And
You make what you can make with what you have. And I think sometimes buyers will be told, okay, you can do this. I know Nick doesn't. He's pretty real. You get to the part, and these loans, they'll check you systematically through the buying process.
Right.
At the very end, they do another check, and everyone gets mad, like, hey, I thought we were good. But they're checking you again. Did you buy a motorcycle? We always told them, don't buy
any vehicles.
Yeah.
Don't buy big furniture.
Yeah, and they'll say, look, what's your loan to income, or what's your And what ends up happening is they find out, okay, we couldn't afford this, and it becomes problematic.
Yes,
it becomes problematic,
and that's where you have to say, all right, listen. As much as I know you like this house, let me see if I can put you in something that 5 years from now, if you're looking out, like you say, what coaches do, you look out for the kid down the road. I'm not worried that your daughter will be able to handle things because I think I made her tougher.
You did.
I think she can handle life a little easier, and there will be problems down the road. Same as a house, there will be problems. So, wait a minute, you might think down the road here for these people. I'm not going to put you in $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 more than you can afford, because you're going to have to put a new garage in 5 years, or side the house in 3 years. Or like mine, have squirrels running up and down there.
I was going to bring that up. See if you're going to mention the squirrels again, right?
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Like somebody missed a big hole in the side of your house.
Yeah. So the house had sat. The second house, the only other house we had saved, and it was in an old neighborhood that my father built our house.
Yeah.
Back in those days, you bought a brick for half a cent a piece. Wow. 1950, 47, whatever. And he built our house, him and my grandfather.
Very cool.
Yeah. So we moved up when he bought the land, built the house. Then I came a few years later. Yeah. The prince was born, and that's my two sisters. Being the only Italian son, of course. You got
the son, yes. About the oldest Italian son.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah, so I was, and apparently there was a house in Italy that I should have been able to inherit at some point, but my great-grandmother sold it when her husband died. And it was like, come on, my dad always talks about it. My son would have gotten it, we carry on that name.
That's horrible.
But, oh well, right?
But anyway, the squirrel got
So we buy, and we loved the house. It was a house where I used to ride my bike when I was a little kid. I'd go up, that house is so nice. And all of a sudden, 50 some odd years later, the house is up for sale.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So at the time, I was ready to retire. I was looking at it. I said, we can afford this if you like it. And my wife was always wanted a bigger kitchen, so it had what we wanted.
Right.
We fell in love with it. We loved it. We went through it. It happened that the realtor was my dentist. Former dentist.
That sounds about
so
right.
we right
That's
away.
how Erie works.
Realtor,
dentist, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So we're walking through it. He didn't try to oversell. He didn't try to nothing. He just come on and take.
He's got molars to fill.
Yes.
Molars to fill.
So we loved it. We worked out all the details, and I said, "What do you think?" My wife said, "Yeah, we can do this." And okay, if you like it, I'm in. Whatever. So we didn't know because the house had sat. There's a hole in the side, and nobody's seen it, and their bushes were kind of covered. So I'm sitting there one day, and I'm.
I just wanted to see his flash.
Oh, do we have to look out?
No, you're good.
No,
you're
right?
good.
Yeah, Yeah, could we re-record this whole interview?
Oh my God.
I don't think this worked. No.
So I'm sitting there one day, and I'm having a coffee, and I see this giant box squirrel walk right in front of me.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm sitting there. Now, my wife had just had surgery. She's in the, we have a round room. It's so cool. It's a round room. It looks like a little White House, and that's, of course, her room, you know. And she's in there recuperating from surgery, and I see this squirrel, and he walks right in front of me, goes behind the television in the corner, and he's gone. And I go, what the heck? And you know how you think,
just passing through.
Right?
Like,
Did I really see
did
that?
I just see
He's
that?
done it.
Did
The
you
squirrel has
did
done
you
it
take
1,000
some of your
times.
wife's drugs after the surgery?
No,
Is
I
that what
ran
this
in
was?
there. I literally made this poor woman after
Oh.
get up. I says, you have to get up. There's an animal loose in the house.
Oh no!
She's like thinking there's some kind of
Coyote.
It's a squirrel.
It's a giant
I don't want it to
box
get
squirrel.
you.
Squirrel.
So I make her get up, and she's like, she's walking out. I board up the area. I put a big board in front of the heating duct,
Yeah.
and I called a friend of mine, Paul. He does this for a living. So I said, Paul, I got a squirrel problem. He said, well, where is it?
Well,
I said, it went in the ductwork. He goes,
A squirrel's done that 1,000 times before. When you're sitting there
Probably,
drinking
yeah.
coffee
It lived
or
in,
not.
you were moving into his
Yes.
territory, right?
There's no problem.
But the problem is, he got so panicky inside there. I hear him. He can't figure out how to get back
Well,
to get out.
so
So okay. So Paul comes up and he brings these, looks like forceps, and they're about 3 feet long. And I'm going, what are you going to do with it? He said, I'm going to take care of that squirrel for you.
Oh
Oh,
boy.
no.
And he goes into the grate and he clips it. And the next thing you hear is
We're gonna have to edit this part out.
He pulls
Violently.
I know.
We're gonna have animal activists here.
Right now.
There's no other way to get him. He
Right.
pulls this squirrel out. It's
It's a limp coming out.
Yeah,
right now.
God.
And he goes, there, we took care of
We
him.
got him, yo.
And I said, is he sleeping?
Oh no!
He can't be dead. You didn't just kill it, did you?
He broke. Yeah, he killed it. He had no. So he goes, he takes it. He goes, I'll take care of it. He puts it in the thing. He goes, now let me go see where they're coming in.
That's
Yeah.
So he
funny.
looks around and he finds the hole. So he says, you got to get that fixed.
Wow.
Well, before we could get it fixed, he had to come back because it was like an elevator chute up into our bedroom.
Oh.
They're getting into the thing, and
Oh
you
jeez,
could
yeah.
hear him. You could hear him at night.
This was just the first of
That was
many
the
that
first
we're gonna
of-
be getting in.
Yeah,
there.
he had to catch 2 or 3 to get him out of
Oh
there.
no!
Finally, once we
You
got
know
it
what they
fixed,
say.
Yep.
You know.
C1, there's a lot
yeah.
behind.
So finally, we got it fixed, and we eliminated that problem. But
Nice.
again, you don't know when you buy something exactly. Not even you know it. Everything.
You're not
the
gonna
house
know.
was sitting. No.
And then if it was there for a long time, it was sitting.
Yeah.
You're just not gonna know. It's
So,
just
you know,
the element of the
But
surprise.
but there are prices to pay
Mhm.
down the road. That's why don't overextend yourself.
That's right.
Try, do what you can do, and things will work out eventually. Just plan. My wife has been brilliant at this. I
Can
can't.
you be our real estate coach?
I,
Come on now. I mean, all of it. Like you're teaching these kids such valuable things. You're changing cultures. You're doing this stuff because because of your belief system.
that's it. That's all.
We need that. We
Well,
need more.
I know you're strapped on time today, Nick. Thanks for having.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming on the show.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'd love to talk to you again. I mean, I want to talk to you about this whole. You coach girls basketball, and women's basketball is having a big moment right now.
Yeah, Kate.
And those are some things I'd like to talk to you about in the future here. And I think we just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But we're grateful for you coming on the first episode
thank you
here.
very much.
The man, the
And,
myth, the legend.
No.
Nick how do you say DeSantis in like Italian?
Is there a little more?
What do you- how do
Or
you
was
spell
it even DeSantis? Was it longer, maybe?
No,
or
it was
something?
DeSantis,
No?
but
Okay.
Grandma, when she came over and got off in Ellis Island, there was no S.
Oh,
Oh, like DeSantis.
Yeah, it's like the movie.
Okay.
They just write it in.
whatever they
Yeah.
want.
Whatever he thought he heard.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she told the guy that he asked their height. She was maybe 3'8". And she
Yeah,
told him
right.
She heard the guy in front of him 6'1". So she said 6'1", And the guy looked at her, no, honey, you're not 6 feet.
That's so cute.
So they've added the S. But
how come the old Italian women are so little?
I don't know. It's old Polish women too, honestly. Like,
it was malnourishment, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's why they came here.
Yeah, it's scurvy.
They looked, when they were in their 40s, they looked like they were 80.
I know.
Yeah, with that hair.
Well, Grandma made it to 104, so.
Well, that's the thing. They looked old when they were 40, but then they lived like 200 years.
Right. 12.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So they look the same for like 60 years.
That's why they all know each other. They've seen each other for over 100 years.
But anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming over.
We really appreciate you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to see you again, Coach.
Yep, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for coming. All right, welcome back to Vault Vibes Unlocked and Unscripted with Nick and Julie. You know what? I don't think we introduced ourselves again. I mean, I know people know who we are, but I don't think we said that at the start.
Right.
So we did have to. We were uncharged, mentally and physically here,
well,
and we had to
it's
recharge.
hard not to be distracted by the fading light over there. You can see there, like what we're doing is now.
We had like the perfect setup,
yeah.
And then I had to go back. I had to get my laptop charged. They say, podcasting 101 is make sure everything's hardwired and charged and things like that.
But also, what we were discussing,
so we're trying to find this spot.
Once you stop that flow, it's harder to get back in sync with that. But honestly, everything that we're talking about is like a spinoff from what Coach Nick came and talked about. So, and it's like all of it was said, but still, there's still so much you can say. It's weird. It's almost like
absolutely.
He has so much wisdom and so much practical application, and he makes it look effortless. And like what I said to you and him before, coaching is more than just knowing the game and being able to put people where their talent is. It's not just tactical. It's changing and cultivating a culture, getting
Absolutely.
you know how hard it is. Like you've seen, if anyone has kids in sports, you see how parents and adults can ruin it. Like and how does a person who wants to work with kids and teach them something of value, not just the sport, but teamwork and winning and wherewithal and motivation. How do you go into a culture like that when you've got such negativity and you're being paid very little for this?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they're not getting paid at all.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what level it is. Right. Absolutely.
And if your kids were in any club sports whatsoever or traveling sports, the expectation of coaches is even higher.
Right.
My kid's been at this. What more do you have to say about what my kid is learning? Because they've learned it all almost, and you put money and you put time and you travel and you're trying to make your kid really good at what they're doing, and then you put them back into a school sport and expect way more than what they're getting for very little. So it's a conundrum. I didn't have to deal with this when I was a child.
They didn't really have travel sports.
Yeah.
It was kids would do multiple sports. Like I know when I was a kid, I did multiple sports. You had a different one every season. I remember I tried out for one of the. Soccer was just starting.
Oh yeah.
As far as a travel thing back then, and I even as I think I was like 12 or something, and even as a 12-year-old, I thought like I don't want this, and it wasn't until once you get to high school, and you kind of finely you hone in on your skills. Sometimes obviously with a high school team, you're traveling a little more. Maybe you get in a little more of that. Sometimes you can take yourself to the competitions, things like that. I was just watching another podcast where this guy said, travel sports are ruining some families. It's even crazy.
And kids are like now, like my kids didn't do the travel sports. Whether that's good or bad or indifferent, I don't know. But their respect for their coaches in school was like it was almost like parenting, like it takes a village kind of thing. Right. And they're an influence on their life. It's a huge influence. It's practicing and learning and grit and being called Big Bird. All of those things, like literally that's where they're learning. That's part of their upbringing now all of a sudden. And so their respect for their coaches is way different than what your expectations would be. Like their expectations are almost nothing. They have no
Right.
other experience. Like what else do they have? So I guess pulling that into what we're doing and what we're trying to do is how do we cultivate? How do we make that culture in our workplaces? How do we do what we're told? I don't know, like what we're supposed to be doing. How do you do your thing as a loan officer? How do I do my thing as a realtor and hypnotherapist and life coach? With cultivating a culture that speaks to empowerment of the person, of the
Absolutely.
teaching, coaching.
Well, I
really.
think, yeah, right. And that's why we had a coach on. I mean, we talked to him a little bit on the interview about how, a lot of times sports can be broken down and it can be applied to life, to business, to, education, other fields and stuff like that. So, that's why we sort of want to have different voices on here.
Mm-hmm.
Different people come on every week, maybe even multiple, times per week as we grow here, and share differing, approaches, differing views on how you do that.
Right.
And obviously we'll ask them about, maybe their own real estate sides or their own things like that.
And empowerment doesn't mean power over everyone else. Empowerment means knowing what you're good at and being able to work with that and motivate your own self and your own journey. It's not how can I be powerful over everybody. It's empowerment
Right.
of
That's
being,
different.
of calling your shots,
Right.
calling your own shots, making those things work, and maybe even empowering other people to do the same.
Right.
So it's
Right.
not like what can I get away with and how can I be in charge in everything.
Right. It's
not,
all an attitude. It
Yeah.
really is, and it's just something that you need to adjust, and that positivity.
Teamwork is where
shows it.
where it's at. Teamwork is like what we're talking about with coaching, teaching kids how to be on a team. I mean,
Right.
that's huge. Teaching adults how to be on a team. It's never too old to learn how to be a team.
No, you're right.
Really.
You're right. 100%. Yeah, I think that's great. I think, thanks for everyone for joining us again today. We are very grateful for anyone who watches us. Make sure to hit subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. I'm going to try to get out there on Apple Music as well. So make sure to subscribe to our page. Try to watch us. We will be releasing our videos every Thursday for the time being. And, watch our interview with Nick Danis. He was a great guest today. He was going to a Guardians game. Go Guardians.
Why are we calling him Guardian? I'm sorry.
No, we're not going to talk about that today. We're ending our show.
I'm so old-fashioned, that's all. But what I like is that we're getting people in here that have great. They really, I like that it's a surprise from week to week who we have in here.
Maybe we'll get a Cleveland Guardian on here. We'll get a Guardian. One of the statues, actually, the actual Guardian.
Oh, the funniest mascot I've seen so far. My daughter finally committed to a team.
Yeah.
It's Duquesne Dukes. And I'm not gonna try. I think it's just interesting.
I had read about that because they were in the tournament this year, and they're
doing great.
Duke is actually like a nickname of the guy who started the school.
Right.
So it's not even like a mascot per se. It's just a guy.
It started out as this paper mache, a creepy head thing that the mascot would wear, and it looks like a guy with a top hat. And then they changed it to a lion now. It's a lion with a top hat.
Right.
I'm so confused.
It has nothing to do with Duke or anything. It's you look at there's the university, Duke University, and you think, okay, does that have something to do with that?
I love it.
No, it's just Duke was a nickname.
Right.
For this guy.
But I'm also so confused because it's not just Duquesne. It's
so Duquesne.
It's not even just Duquesne. It's
he was like a bishop or something.
Yeah, right. The name of the school is the name of the school is Duquesne University of the Holy Spirit or something.
Right.
And I think that's cool too. Also in its own way, but a lion with a top hat isn't saying anything to speak of the.
It's one of the more unique.
I'm so confused.
Duke.
Duquesne Dukes.
Yeah.
Of the Holy Spirit?
Why don't they just be the Lions?
Or why not?
Right?
Yeah, or Duquesne Duke Lions of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. They're
know.
not named after a duke, a royalty or whatever. That's But now they're trying to play off that they are.
Such trying is happening.
It's weird.
I'm okay with people trying.
Yeah, that is weird.
This will be good.
That is good. But yeah, thanks again for joining us on our show, on our journey. We're going to continue trying to empower you folks. Get you ready for whatever life hits at you. Yeah. And Nick and Julie out.
Peace. I'm just so confused about the whole lions and top hats.
I know.
I don't understand.